I watched a podcast of Mel Robbins a few months ago, and it changed my life forever. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't in some motivated, self-improvement headspace. I was exhausted, genuinely, deeply exhausted. Not the kind of tired that a good night's sleep fixes, the kind that lives behind your eyes, the kind that follows you into the weekend and is already waiting for you Monday morning. I had been running on empty for months. Deadlines that never seemed to end, an inbox that refilled itself the moment I cleared it, meetings that could have been emails, decisions I didn't have the energy to make, and underneath all of it, that low, persistent hum of dread that I couldn't explain to anyone without sounding like I was overreacting. I wasn't performing the way I knew I could. I wasn't present at home. I wasn't sleeping properly. And the worst part? I didn't know why. I was doing everything I was supposed to do, showing up, working hard, pushing through, and still that feeling wouldn't leave, that quiet, exhausting sense that something was wrong with me, that everyone else was handling the pressure just fine, and I was the only one quietly white-knuckling my way through each week. So there I was, 9 p.m., still at my desk, too tired to work, too wired to rest. And I opened YouTube, not for anything specific, just looking for something to make the noise in my head a little quieter. And that's when I found it. A conversation between Mel Robbins and Dr. Julie Smith, a real clinical psychologist. And within the first 5 minutes, Dr. Julie said something that stopped me completely. I rewound it. I listened again. I grabbed a pen and wrote it down. I spent the next week trying everything they talked about in my real life, with my real pressure, in my real exhaustion, in my very imperfect, very ordinary days. And something shifted. Not overnight, not dramatically, but in the quiet, real way that actually lasts. Stay with me, because this is the video I wish someone had sent me a year ago, before the exhaustion got that loud. Here's the first thing Dr. Julie said that stopped me mid-scroll. Anxiety is not a weakness. It is a signal. Your brain has a built-in alarm system that has been running since the beginning of human history. When it detects a threat, a difficult conversation with your manager, an unclear project brief, financial uncertainty, career decisions you don't have answers to yet, it fires cortisol and adrenaline through your body. Heart rate up, chest tight, thoughts racing, focus gone. That is not you failing. That is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is the story we layer on top of it. We feel the anxiety and immediately add shame. Why can't I just handle this? Why am I like this? What is wrong with me? And that second layer, the self-judgment sitting on top of the fear, is what turns manageable stress into something that quietly hollows you out. Here's a number that I want you to sit with for a second. 1 in 4 people experience clinically significant anxiety every single year. 1 in 4. That's your colleague who seems unshakable in presentations. That's your manager who appears calm under pressure. That's the person in the next office who you assume has it all figured out. The anxiety you feel is not a personal failure. It is one of the most common human experiences on the planet. When I finally understood this, really understood it, something shifted. I stopped fighting the feeling. I stopped treating it like evidence that I was falling apart. I started treating it like a message worth reading. So the very first practice is this. The next time anxiety shows up at work, before a meeting, during a stressful afternoon, late at night worrying about tomorrow, say this quietly to yourself. This is a signal, not a sentence. That's it. That one reframe, it sounds small, but it creates just enough space between you and the feeling to keep you functioning instead of freezing.
Okay, you know anxiety is a signal now. Good. But what do you actually do when it hits you in the middle of the workday? when you're sitting in a meeting, heart pounding, mind spinning, and you can't exactly excuse yourself for a therapy session. This is the second technique from the Mel Robbins and Dr. Julie Smith conversation that I used immediately, and I used it the very next morning. It's called riding the wave. Here's the psychology behind it. Emotions, including anxiety, are not permanent. They are neurological events with a beginning, a peak, and an end. Research on emotional regulation shows that the average emotional wave, when you stop resisting it, lasts roughly 90 seconds to a few minutes before it naturally subsides. But here's what most working professionals do instead. They feel the anxiety spike and immediately panic about it. They feel stressed about being stressed. They feel anxious about feeling anxious. They pour fuel onto the wave and wonder why it never settles. The technique is deceptively simple. When the wave hits during a high-stakes meeting, before a difficult phone call, in the middle of an overwhelming afternoon, you stop for 30 seconds. You breathe in slowly for 4 counts. You breathe out slowly for 6 counts. You name what you're feeling internally. This is anxiety. This is overwhelm. This is a wave. And then you let it move through you without adding resistance. You don't fix it, you don't suppress it, you don't power through it with your jaw clenched. You observe it, like watching a storm through a glass window, present but not inside it. I tried this during a particularly brutal Thursday. Back-to-back calls, an inbox that never emptied, a project that kept expanding, and every hour or so, that familiar wave would rise. I didn't fight it. I breathed through it. I named it. I let it pass. I got through that Thursday. Not perfectly, but completely. And I realized the goal was never zero anxiety. The goal was to stop letting it make my decisions for me.
Now here's the part of Dr. Julie's framework that completely changed how I start my days. Most working professionals, and I was absolutely guilty of this, live in what I now call pray mode. You wake up, and before you've even fully opened your eyes, the threat scanning begins. What's in my inbox? What did I miss? What's going wrong today? What do people think of last week's work? What if this project fails? Your nervous system is on constant alert from the moment you wake, reacting to everything, chasing nothing. Pray mode feels like being permanently on the back foot. It feels like the day is happening to you instead of you happening to the day. And it creates a brutal loop. Anxiety leads to avoidance. Avoidance leads to falling further behind. Falling behind leads to more anxiety. Round and round. Dr. Julie talks about shifting from reactive to intentional. I think of it as flipping from prey to predator mode. Not aggressive, not cold, just deliberate. Choosing your direction instead of being chased by everything else. Here's the practical flip I made that week. Every morning, before I checked a single notification, before the emails, before the Slack messages, before the news, I asked myself one question. What is the one thing I am choosing to move forward today? Not my full task list, not every deadline. One thing, the most important one, and I protected the first hour of my day for that single thing before the world got in. That one shift restructured everything. Because when you choose your target before the day assigns you one, your brain stops reading the morning as a threat and starts reading it as a mission. The anxiety doesn't disappear, but it has less room because you're already moving with purpose. By day 3 of doing this, I noticed something. I was leaving my desk at the end of the day feeling like I'd actually done something real, not just survived, actually moved. That feeling, that quiet sense of forward momentum, is its own medicine.
Here's where most productivity advice fails working professionals. It tells you to push harder, do more, optimize every hour, build a perfect morning routine. And if you still feel anxious and burned out, you just need more discipline. That is completely backwards. What actually builds resilience, the kind that lets you sustain high performance without burning out, is gradual exposure paired with genuine self-compassion.
That's not soft advice. That's cognitive behavioral psychology applied to real working life. Here's what gradual exposure looks like practically. Maybe you've been avoiding a difficult conversation with your manager about your workload. Maybe you've been putting off a networking event because the social anxiety feels like too much. Maybe you've been quietly shrinking your ambitions because the risk of visible failure feels unbearable. Avoidance never shrinks the fear, it feeds it. Every time you avoid the thing anxiety has tagged as dangerous, your brain records it as further proof that the thing was truly threatening. The fear grows, your world quietly gets smaller. But you don't fix this by throwing yourself at the hardest thing all at once. You take one small step toward the uncomfortable thing, every single day. During that week I tried Dr. Julie's approach, I had a conversation I'd been postponing for 3 weeks, a boundaries conversation with a colleague about project ownership that I knew was going to be awkward. Every day I found a reason to delay it. On day 4, I told myself something Dr. Julie said that I'd written down. You don't have to do it perfectly, you just have to do it. I had the conversation. It was imperfect, a little uncomfortable, completely fine. And the relief afterward wasn't just relief about the conversation, it was bigger than that. It was the proof. I can walk toward the thing that scares me and survive it. That proof compounds. Every small brave action you take becomes evidence that your nervous system stores and builds on. Self-compassion is the other half of this equation, and I want to be specific about what that means because most people misunderstand it. Self-compassion is not telling yourself everything is fine when it isn't. It is acknowledging honestly, I am carrying a lot right now. This season is hard, and I am still showing up. That honest kindness toward yourself is not weakness. According to the research of Dr. Kristen Neff, self-compassion is directly linked to greater emotional resilience and sustained performance under pressure. You cannot build a strong structure on a floor of constant self-criticism. Kindness toward yourself is not the opposite of high standards. It is what makes high standards sustainable.
1 week after I watched that Mel Robbins and Dr. Julie Smith conversation on YouTube, I wasn't transformed in some dramatic overnight way, but I was genuinely different where it counted. I stopped reading my anxiety as a sign that I was failing. I started reading it as a signal worth understanding. I rode the waves instead of drowning in them. I flipped from prey mode to predator mode one morning at a time. I had the conversation I'd been avoiding. I took one small, brave step each day, and I caught myself, just barely, but in time, before the shrinking trap closed completely. The week didn't fix everything, but it proved something to me that no amount of pushing through had ever proven, that I was capable of meeting my anxiety with something other than fear, and that changed everything that came after. This is not a quick fix, it is a quiet shift. But quiet shifts, repeated every day, become the whole direction of a life. Take note on these easy 7-step anxiety reset guide, and I will explain it after. Step 1. Rename it. When anxiety hits, say, "This is a signal, not a sentence," and keep moving. Step 2. Ride the wave. Breathe in for 4, out for 6, name the feeling, and let it pass without fighting it. Step 3. Set your one thing. Before touching your phone each morning, choose the single most important thing you will move forward today. Step 4. Do one brave thing. Pick something anxiety told you to avoid and take just the first small step toward it today. Step 5. Get curious, not critical. Ask, what is this protecting me from? Instead of asking, what is wrong with you? Step 6. End with kindness. Before bed, name one hard thing you carried today and one thing you did well. That's it. Step 7. Watch the original video. Mel Robbins in Dr. Julie Smith's full conversation is what started all of this for me. I put the link right in the description so you can watch it yourself tonight. Here's what I want you to do right now, before this video ends. Pick one step from that guide. the one that felt most like it was written for you specifically, and do it today. Not this weekend, not when things calm down at work, today. If this video reached you, if it named something you've been carrying quietly, leave a comment with one word: signal. I read every single one, and I want to know this found you when you needed it. If you want more of this, honest, practical, science-backed guidance for working professionals who are figuring it out in real time, subscribe. See you in the next one.